Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 393rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 12th, 2021. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be a host today, and I'll be hosting, as usual, Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and I believe he's ready to go with today's workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you ready and able as usual?
Yes. Good morning, good day to you, as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers program at the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. We welcome you back to another session of what I call learning and, in a way, expanding the knowledge. We've been going on for some weeks without having what we call a normal session of questions and answers. And as usual, through the questions, we teach more. And I think today is a good day to bring this up. We give a free panel hand to those who are present to ask their questions and any questions which might come under the other parts of the teaching channels like YouTube and the rest. Those of you who are looking forward to go on the TV channel, the TV channel is getting recorded, it's been set up. They still have some what they call final touches to put, and it'll be loaded up afterwards. But hopefully by next week, the TV channel will be up and running. We will not do the live presentations from the studio as a regular basis. We might do whenever possible we see appropriate to be there. But overall, the television station and the studios are in position to up and run and be open it to what we call the knowledge seekers, representatives of the KFTV to be able to use it. Those of you who are knowledge seekers and representative of the TV channel, please go to the representative chat room. There is some news in there. And those of you who are the representative of the press of the Keshe Foundation TV, you can request for your TV what we call press passes and other things which goes with it. These are legal documents we need, and then you have to be appointed by your community to be able to receive it. And so hopefully everything is now up and running and the TV news is ready to go. On the other hand, we are pre-advance organizing a lot of other things. The conference of the 4th and the 5th of September is moved to the first weekend of October due to a lot of things which are happening in the background. And so if you have booked the ticket for this venue, please change it to the first week of October, as in September we have commitments which is beyond the Keshe Foundation, and we are waiting to be called upon to what we call join this structure to be able to deliver more for the Keshe Foundation works. And the September third week for agriculture is moved to October. The Keshe Foundation Lens Center is up and running from 1st of October. And those of you who want to come and view, you're quite welcome. But you have to, as usual, make a booking with the Keshe Foundation website, when you're coming, who's coming, and the rest of it. And the days we have visitors, we tell you they cannot be used. The center stays closed for international visitors who come to see the systems. The new vertical unit has been moved into the location of the Lens Center for the first time. You will see it. And many new things which the Keshe Foundation is developing will be added to it. Keshe Foundation announces that hopefully by next Thursday, we will have the promotion video ready for you that we are promoting, and you will see it in the Keshe Foundation sales in the shop and the store. The sale of the new breathing masks for prevention and processing of the viruses. These are masks produced in the Keshe Foundation factories, which we are major shareholder in China, and we ship directly in China in boxes of 20. At the moment, we have valued them at €2 per piece. Each box will be about €40, and is for immediate shipping. We are in negotiation on the other hands to governments and delivery to major corporations and so we'll start. And if our demand or our production exceed or be less than what the request exceeds, we will add factories into this line in China very rapidly. So if you are looking for breathing systems or what we call the mask, not only just to be a mask, but for prevention of the what we call viruses, and even if you have virus, to make it easier for what we call processing, you can purchase this mask from the Keshe Foundation store, and the quantities we produce are about 100,000 to 200,000 per day, that we can meet the demand in the contractual agreement. So we have, as we promised you, we have moved to this cycle, and very soon we will introduce what we call the oxygen machines, which use the same principle. The machines are produced and manufactured in Iran, and all the exports will be from Iranian offices of the Keshe Foundation. We will announce this in the coming time. But as we're going through the process, the new oxygen machines produced by the Iran medical companies and adopted for the use of the GANs in breathing system will be introduced, exported out of Iran to any destination across the world. In due course, we will release this data hopefully by next couple of weeks. As I said, we are linking up and working with the knowledge seekers and companies which are connected to the Keshe Foundation to bring the latest possible. The Keshe, what we call enhancement mask unit, is produced on the high level of what we call medical certification for the factory, and the same will be with the oxygen machines, which will be announced in the next couple of weeks. At the moment, there will be more machinery will be added to the Keshe Foundation system. There's a big shortage of oxygen machines around the world, and the trials in the hospitals in Iran has shown the use of the new technology has speeded up the recovery of the patients. And so we are putting this for, again, clinical trial around the world, the way we did with the glasses. But the experts of these systems, once we announce it, will come from the Keshe Foundation associated groups and factories directly into the production and export out of Iran. As I said, we extend our work into the Iranian territory with delivering high quality systems across onto the export into the market. And in a coming time, most probably before end of this year, we will show the first transportation systems which the Keshe Foundation is working on, and hopefully we'll see the first result. The expansion of the technology is rapid, and you will see more of it. And as you are aware, we are expanding in a way to introduce the technology to many people as possible across the world. And we see what we call the GANs enhancement technology in breathing system as one of the major ways to enter in the international arena, where everybody will see and the Keshe Foundation will be exposed by its technology internationally. In the coming time, most probably in the next few weeks, as you see on the pictures here, a new set of sugar mugs or cups and pressure cups and what we call enhancement cups, or what we call cup of life, will be introduced from our factory in China, where the cups carry the instruction printed in several languages on the cup. And it will be again, export is dispatched directly from our companies in China. We are pre-working these, and gradually we'll expand these into the other dimensions. With the introduction of the production from China, we will reduce the mass production units drastically that become affordable by everyone to be able to buy, even to be marketed in supermarkets. Again, this is a part of the expansion of the new factory in China, which allows us to work on such things, and the Keshe Foundation China team are working on it. In the expansion of the technology, we need to understand more. We need to be able to develop technologies that brings the use of the plasma technology in a household way, that we can apply it in every way and possible, what we call applications. In an upcoming time, Keshe Foundation will release 3 new products, which will bring a change in the production of many materials that we produce, and in what we call in the health application fields. And gradually we introduce these systems as it is on the international arena. What we explained before, that today we try to make the session what we call question and answer, that by asking questions from each other, we might be able to explain more. On the screen, we see 2 units. One is the enhancement pen unit, and one is the air enhancement unit. The pen enhancement unit will be joining by the original Keshe Foundation pad. The paint pads will release a new version of enhanced paint pad systems. These will come out of the Austrian factory of the Keshe Foundation, and they'll be valued around about €150. They are extremely effective, and they are produced especially for what they set out from the original structure of the paint pads. The new paint pads are, in a way, the completion of what we call the enhancement systems we had before. As many of you have tested the new paint pen, you've seen the rapid effectiveness of this operation. The same will go with what we call air enhancement unit. This unit has been more or less to its final position, and we will release what we call a new version of these in the next week or 2 with different applications that will be for total disinfecting environment. This is important for us to achieve, where we create a condition for operating rooms or people would like to use it in different areas of the house. This will be on the launch of the Keshe Foundation technology in the coming weeks. We go back to our teaching part, and if there are any questions which is relevant to the teaching of the past few weeks, please ask and see how we can, with it, expand the knowledge of all of us in this respect. Rick, do you see any questions or?
Well, yes, indeed. The question that you were kind of expecting is the first question that's come up from Freed in the live stream, who asked, "Dear Mr. Keshe, what is the connection regarding graphene and nanocoding? Is there any relation, and can you bring some clarity regarding natural processes contrary to manipulated ones?"
We were discussing this just before the teaching with Rick, as it has been raised in the Spanish and the Portuguese Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers. They have started creating fear, and this fear again has started, we know, through what we call specific channels to create mayhem through the lack of understanding of the knowledge seekers. They're using the innocence of the knowledge seekers to frighten them away from the Keshe Foundation. And it's done by, again, launched from the basis we have seen from the past, and it's deliberately targeted on these two communities. Understand the science. Nano is counting individuality. Graphene is a shape. As I explained to the Spanish group last night, nano is the size of an atom, which will be in singularity, which is 10 to the minus 9 zeros of the meter. Graphene is when the nano, a single atom, in the matter state takes structure. We see it. All of you know this if I explain to you in a simple way. A corn is an individual, is a nano, is a single element. When you heat it up in a pan and it expands to a popcorn, then it becomes a graphene. It has a shape, a dimension. In the scientific world, you have a carbon in a gaseous structure. You use it to burn, for charcoal, for barbecue. You use it for conductivity in motors. Thus, in an individual, we can separate two individual atoms. If we heat it up in the center core of the Earth under a high pressure and temperature and blow it up into the air, in a way, into the atmosphere, it could be in the water or air, at that point of the transition of the high heat and low, it explodes into diamond. So carbon on its own is a nano. When it becomes a diamond, it becomes graphene. The other graphene, which we know, and every one of us during this program or during the day today, from the time you wake up and you go to sleep, will produce liters of it in a form of gases which you, what I call, release from your anus, and we call it fart. And if it has a smell and odor, it becomes graphene of the gas. This is the simplest way it can be explained. A graphene is a dimensional structure of an atom which gets itself its volume. Odor, a smell, is a graphene of a gas. Your stomach creates a gas, and according to the fields of the foods you have consumed, to tell your nose if the food was good or bad, and it was no difference, you get no smell. If it smells, it tells by smelling from your bottom end to the top end of your nose that the nose knows what to process, don't eat this food again, or there is a problem. Or you understand your extraction of the matter into a gas in the what we call crystal structure as an odor, which becomes a smell, informs your brain this food is dangerous or you ate something wrong. So all of us know what a nano is, and all of us knows what the graphene is. So people who have this problem, we discussed this before, is that when you eat food and you release gases to your mouth and you smell it, that's a graphene. It's a graphene of a gas, which in structure you ate the food in atomic, in your stomach became individuality of a nanostructure, and then if it changed to gases which the stomach doesn't agree with it, it releases as a odor. So we are created out of nanostructure gas, and our body processes it into graphene. We do not have to be scared of the word. The reason graphene has taken shape, if you read the book, which is to do the paper with the graphene, you understand the Keshe Foundation was one of the, or maybe the first organization in the world in early 20s which managed to create graphene from the atmosphere. Which means for the first time we created the nano layers in our Coca-Cola bottle, and in that gap we managed to capture a gas of carbon in that gap, which gave it individuality and gave it the graphene of carbon. Which means we managed to trap it as a gas inside it became, and then due to compression of the layers as more and more space was made, we could crystallize it like diamond. All of us in one shape or another, like in our nails, in our tooth, we have and we handle nano and what we call graphene in the structure of our body. So we should not be scared of terminology. If you don't understand it, they scare you. In the present time, nanotechnology in the past 20 years has taken hold, and Keshe Foundation has been one of the leading organizations in introducing production of nanomaterials in a simple way. We first showed it in a Coca-Cola bottle, and then many of you do it to caustic and the rest of it. So we all know what it is. We have a molecule which is a combination of, and then when we split it, it becomes single atoms, it becomes what we call nano. You have a nano of a carbon, you have a nano of gold, you have a nano of anything, which means singularity, individual atom. Has no size and dimension, because a nano of a hydrogen has a different size than a nano of gold. Then when you put these gases, as you produce them, they cannot exist individually most of the time. They need a gravitational field of the earth, which means they need the inertial connection, which in the air is oxygen. So we create what we call magnetic gravitational fields of a carbon between the two plates of the zinc and nano-coated copper. In attracting the carbon from the air through its magnetic field collection, it changes it into a nanocarbon. But the minute the nanocarbon enters your salt water, it takes the energy of the oxygen from your water and it converts it into molecular gas, which is a CO2. So we understand the process. We do not produce the graphene of CO2. We produce gas of CO2, which is in the energy form. You cannot eat a diamond just because it's a graphene of carbon. In that process, we fully understand. Now the scientists have used individual atoms and they call it a nano. Nano of what? You have a car. Is it a Mercedes? Is it a Mini? Is it a Volkswagen? Or is it a Jaguar? You have a car, call it nano. When they tell you nano, nano of what? And people get frightened. When they talk to you about graphene, graphene of what? What have you expanded in your injections that you call it a graphene? And 99% of the material in these processes newly come out because of the viruses we know is not even graphene, because it's not easy to produce graphenes. Not with the present knowledge in the world of science. They are using a terminology that people don't understand, and it looks very advanced. Knowledge seekers, you know this for 20 years. You know more about nano and graphene than the scientists in more advanced universities like Yale, in whatever top universities in the world. In Iran, Iran has been the leading nation in nanotechnology for 15 years, according to United Nations, because we understand the simplicity of it. They make it big to frighten. So when they tell you they use a nano, say nano of what? Cabbage? Nano of a carrot? What have they nano-sized? Which means they have managed to become to its individuality. And then when you have a nano, you create a magnetic field. Because it's a dynamic. It's a single atom made of the plasma, as we know, and it's dynamic. It's the way we do with the plates. We nanocoat, we create a new dynamic system between the two plates, magnetic field, we absorb carbon from. So now when they say they put a nano in it, or they put graphene in it, this is a chemical graphene of what? Hydrogen, oxygen, of CO2, because it could be in the state of the matter state. And then because it's in a nano state and it's dynamic, in interaction with your blood, which has an iron in it, that's why it's red, you produce it in your cups, it creates a magnetic field. It can create different strengths of magnetic field according to different blood composition. If you're an O, or you're an A, or you're an AB, or you have different composition of blood circulation. We do this in our electric motors. When we pass electric current through wires or whatever, we create a magnetic field, dynamo. So now the chemicals they put into any kind of injection in interaction with the fields of your blood, which is ion-based, is in a GaNs plasma state, can create a magnetic field environment in your body. And because it's ion-based connected, it can show magnetic field. You might be able to stick a spoon to you and say, you can do, I didn't do it. It happens with other vaccinations we know before. If you receive the injection from measles or whooping cough or whatever, you had this. It's not something new. If you receive a specific type of injections for chemotherapy, you create the same thing. Because the chemicals in interaction with your blood create a magnetic field. You call it aura. Your aura is a magnetic field of your body. Depends what you eat, it changes your aura. Now they inject in your body something for a virus, something for your headache, something for your back pain. Depends on the strength of the chemical and how it interacts with the iron of your blood and the plasma condition, it changes your aura. And if it can be reduced rapidly within the structure of the muscles and the skin, you might get some interactions. So do not be scared with what is coming out. We saw the first magnetic field changes with the original chemotherapies. This is not something new. Now people can video something and they start a scaremongering. Nano and graphene is part of understanding a science. Number one does not make it a cow, one cow, one man, one car. It's just number one. So it's nano. When you make it to become one car, so now we know a car. Now is this a graphene? And then you have to say what car it is. And then this is different combination of the chemicals they use. And the science of the man has not reached the point to produce graphene randomly the way they want. So they're using a word which make it very advanced, but in fact they haven't managed it. When we produced the first graphene in 2005, submitted to IMEC, the most advanced nanotechnology company in the world, they said we produce graphene. And we're using a nuclear material, and Keshe Foundation became a terrorist organization because we produce graphene out of fresh air with a simple technology which we all use. But we produced a graphene of carbon which came from the Coca-Cola bottle. And it's diamond, it's worth billions. We gave it to you free. It's in the book. Go and have a look. The graphs, the pictures of where it's submitted and confirmed. So, understand, yes, you have a nano. Nano of what? You have a graphene. Graphene of what? What have you managed to graphize? If it's a carbon, it's the most beautiful thing for your body. If they can create graphene of carbon in an injection that enters the body, most of the illnesses will be eradicated. But they haven't managed to do that. When you produce gans of CO2, you don't produce one type of gans of CO2. You produce a spectrum of the carbon energy, which can help connect, reconnect, disconnect all your neural system as is needed by the body. So, in a way, scientifically, we have to invite the new knowledge in, but understand what it is they have or they claim they have made a graphene of. Which car are we driving? A Mini, a Rolls Royce, a truck, a ship? And then understand. We've seen this in China in past few days. How China, what we call agricultural university, which collaborated with us in growing harvest in Inner Mongolia, they thought they found the recipe and they added part of our technology into the system they wanted to grow, but it wasn't growing that big the way they saw with us. So now they come back and say, can you explain? We want you to be part of the Beijing University. We didn't do, they couldn't do, they gave a lot of lectures around the world, but they couldn't explain how we produce graphene in the structure of the growth of materials. Understand the knowledge, nobody can escape. This is one of the reasons in all my teaching in the past few weeks, I have said many times, when we take man into space, man will be knowledgeable. That no one, whatever claim they can frighten you or they become your prophet. And this is what has happened in the Spanish and Portuguese group because of what we've seen, the people we kicked out of the Keshe Foundation. They are trying to say we know something just because we shared pillow they have no knowledge of. They never even made nanomaterial ganses till a year before. Connection by pillow does not bring knowledge. I call it a prostitution. They're trying to prostitute their knowledge, which they have no understanding of. And they're using the way they live their lives to live the scared and what we call knowledge seekers. understand the technology, understand what it means and how it works, then nobody can frighten you, and nobody in a space becomes a prophet because does something which you do not understand. Now you understand why we say the knowledge has to be understood. The man has to change from inside before we take man to space. Because then you'll be abusing yourself and the others to lack of understanding the mechanism. Technology is made so simple that a child of 5 years old in the bathroom in China makes it, understands it, and knows how to use it. A boy in Africa makes cancers for his parents that they're safe from illnesses. I don't think a white man in Spain or in Brazil is less than those two, unless you openly allow yourself to be abused. Nano, graphene, magnetic fields are all part of it. Interaction of the fields of a gas creates electric flow, it creates magnetic field. This is how this planet was created, this is how the universe was created. Now it's become a point of fright because some people have found out how to frighten you. Understand the science, then nobody can be a magician. I even explained to you how Christ, what we call resurrection, has happened. Now you can resurrect anything if you have the energy, if you can transfer what we call the graphene energy of a size to a body. You become Christ, or you understood the technology and the knowledge behind it the way it was done. You transfer energy from one dynamic graphene, which is your body, your soul, to another one. Now you become dangerous. Understand my technology, that no one can fool you the way they have ransacked into Spanish and Brazilian by what I call prostitutes of the knowledge, which have no knowledge of. They only knew prostitution. Don't let people scare you. Understand the technology. I especially attended the Spanish group last night because of this. Cups of life. You've seen how he has saved millions across the world. One cup, one life. Understand how to use it. Understand how to manipulate it as the virus changes, because we're going to have millions of these viruses in the universe. How are we going to handle it? Once we understand it, we can walk it, we can run with it, we can jump with it, because we know how to walk, how to stand. Understand scientific terminology and how it transferred from one side of the science into another. A carbon is a conductor worth nothing. We blow it into its graphene, is what women get their life for, to have it on their fingers as a diamond. So if somebody tells you graphene is dangerous, ladies, please throw all your diamonds away. And the same with the gentlemen who like to buy it for them, you give them graphene that it can kill them. And next time, when you go to a shop and you buy popcorn, don't put it in the mouth of your child. The graphene can kill you. How many of us have died of popcorn? And how many of us eat the corn? It's part of our structure. It's part of our life. Ignorant people using other ignorant people in knowledge can scare them. Any other question?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. See, we have a question from Jan in the YouTube. How can we produce GANs of oxygen?
GANs of oxygen is very easy to produce, but it needs a specific equipment. Because if you try to make a GANs of iron, you have the same problem. GANs of iron is very difficult, but you can make GANs of iron in conjunction with another GANs. You make what we call protein or amino acid, and in conjunction with the GANs of iron in nano state, you produce blood. GANs of oxygen is gravitational magnetic field in a gaseous and in a liquid state in this planet, because most of our gaseous conditions in the atmosphere contain moisture which carries oxygen in it. So you're trying to make a magnet, and that's your problem. It's just trying to make a GANs of a magnet. That's the problem. Is in trying to make a GANs of a radiation. I can make a GANs of gamma ray. I make a GANs of X-rays. I make systems that can produce massive amount of uranium and plutonium in the radiation level. I don't need uranium. I know the process of how to bring fields in gravitational field condition anywhere in the universe to create uranium or plutonium or oxygen. You are dealing with gravitational reference point, which is oxygen in liquid and gas. In a solid state, gravitational field is based on the iron 56. So if you're trying to make what we call GANs of oxygen, you have to develop a technology, which we have done, for absorption and separation. And this is a technique well understood by us in the Keshe Foundation. But holding oxygen on its own in its nano state or what graphene state, it's not difficult, it's easy, but you have to understand principle of what we call inertia of the planet. You cannot make it so easy. It's many people have tried. It's the same if you have tried to make GANs of iron. Through GANs of iron, it's easier for those who make like nanomaterials of it, GANs state, like a lot of people who make deuterium, they find that they have a GANs of iron with them. And they say we have a deuterium. It's usually black in color. And very easily, you just put a magnet to it, push it by the side of the glass, you see it come up, you see it's an iron. Because they cannot produce the true deuterium. The true deuterium is created through a different process. Many of you have made deuterium black in color, sometimes slightly reddish, and you say, I made deuterium. The only place I've seen true deuterium be made is in China. And we made it in the lab there because it's done from interaction of fields. And I've seen a lot of people, even in our lab people brought it to me. I said, I want deuterium, and they brought me to me. I put a magnet against it. I said, this is not deuterium. This is a nano ion. You cannot even convert it to the GaNs of itself, because you have a battle with the magnetic gravitational field of the Earth, which is magnetizes iron. Those few GaNs you see with the iron are the what we call Fe58, Fe60. They sit more on the copper side, the strength, not on the iron F54, F56. And our body works on that level of gases. We have an iron, but we don't stick to the ground, because our iron is F58, F59, and some F56. Very little. And oxygen is the same. Oxygen is a magnetic field gravitational point of the liquid and the gaseous on this planet, even though 50–60% of it is nitrogen. It's not easy to make unless you know a process, and it's something you don't really need, but if you can produce it, it's a radical, and it can create a lot of beautiful conditions. And nobody who has managed to do it in Keshe Foundation. Claims are a lot, but no one, because I know the system, I understand the principle, it's very, very hard. Any other question?
Okay, let's carry on here with the Q&A in the Zoom with Doug, who asks, can the new mass be reused by an individual wearer? I guess
Yes.
it means,
yes.
Can they be like washed, or how would that happen?
They are not washable, but they can be reused.
Okay.
They are the disposable. There are the disposable, what we call masks, and these are, I send them to you, Rick, and let me put it that way. I send them to you. You can just write. Have you received it?
Yes, give me a minute here.
We call it plasma enhanced breathing system.
Just a minute, I have to save it in a different way here. Okay. Just a second here, it's having a little difficulty getting my Images tuned in. Bear with me. Here we go.
If you have a problem, I try to do it to the second system.
No, I've got it here now. Just have to share it. There we go.
These are the two masks which will be marketed by the Keshe Foundation. No, not these, please.
Oops.
I just sent you the mask.
Sent me both of them, but
Yeah.
sorry about that. Okay. So is there anything else you'd like to say about the
Just
mask?
share the mask. These are the masks which will be done. The picture you released is the factory which is certified, medical certification.
Well, I guess people got a sneak peek at that, but very brief.
Yeah, this is a small part of the production. We have tested these and we see a huge demand for this, and we can push the production to several millions. The new factory in Yunjian allows us to move into these, what we call rapid deployment of the technology for masses. We are majority shareholder in this company on what we call it, on production. And so we have a controller of intellectual rights and everything else.
Okay. Perhaps we can move into some other questions here. Let's see. Let's go back to YouTube again from Lisa in Australia, the Plasma School Library, Australia. She
I'm
asks,
gonna release something to you.
Okay.
That I'll do this will be easier. This is the way will be. Just go back. Just 1 second, please. This is the packaging of the product, which you will receive more or less. Let me see if I can share here. This is the packaging of the product, which you will receive 20 per pack. This will be marketed on the Keshe Foundation website from next week. This, in a way, allows you to use the masks in high-risk areas or whatever with more certainty in application. It's a certified masks, and will be shipped from the Chinese factories of the Keshe Foundation. Any other question?
Okay. Krasmir is asking in YouTube, Mr. Kesh, can you clarify how the atomic mass relates to plasma and plasma interaction?
I know nothing about atomic mass. I'm just a layman nuclear physicist. The plasma has a different structure than mass in the matter state. And its field strength in respect to its environment, it always stays constant, as mass is irrespective of interaction of gravity. Plasmas, as we call it, gases, have a dynamic expansion, what we call mass ratio. In the paper I've written about the mass and weight, I explained this in part of it. A plasma, a gas plasma, as we have it, is a dynamic. It can open up and interact with any gravitational field strength and match into it. Where the mass is the collection of the field interactions on a position and a field. If I take a mass of, let's say, carbon, and take it into an environment which a carbon cannot exist, or field strength of it is imbalance, you won't have it there, it won't manifest itself. But if you take a gas from Earth and take it to Moon, you still have the same gas. Because it's due to its expansion of fields, it matches to the field environment and can manifest. And this is part of the what we call transmutation of future to come. If I transfer your mass on the Moon or another position where that mass is the same, but it's a different gravitational field of the environment, it will not show itself, even it has a mass of its own. But a gas always exists and adapts itself according to the spectrum of the fields it has, because it's already opened up. This is a part of a new knowledge which we gradually try to bring in. This is what I explained in the last week or the week before, and this is part of the problems that the scientists have had. They said they managed to transfer one atom, but part of it was left behind, or you transfer a mouse, but its tail is left behind. That happens when you create, and through matter state, you try to create energy fields. It's a different way when you work with gases. I transfer the gans of the structure of the mouse on the Moon or another place, will take the shape that mouse can exist and creates its own mass in interaction. But in essence, it's the same plasma. You cannot do that with a mass. A gas of carbon will exist anywhere in the world, in the universe. A mass of carbon as a matter state is environmental dependent on fields and the strength and inertia. Because then if it doesn't fit, it disappears or cannot manifest itself due to whatever. It doesn't matter, it has the same mass. This is part of the flaw in the present science. And they have convinced us to accept it because they never understood it. In a high strength field, you cannot stay what you are, impossibilities. If you're in the mass state. But as a GANs, as a plasma, you accept higher order strength in the what we call in the volume of the GANs, or lower strength. You adapt into it. It's like elastic. But in a mass, you don't have that flexibility in the matter state. If you understand this in a different way, when we send you gas bottles, when you receive a CO2, see how much is in there, and when you receive a copper, see how much is there. That reduction comes from interaction of the fields of the ganses, where in fact should have no matter state. If we try to give you the 100 gram of metal, it'll be just the dust at the bottom of the bottle. But when we give you the gans of the copper, it has a volume. Try it. Weigh 100 gram of copper in a dust form, or 1 gram of it, you can't produce 100 of it, and then weigh 1 gram of gans in there, and look at the expansion of the height in the bottle. This exhibition center is gone. You're putting the pictures up. They will release the pictures from the new permanent exhibition center of the Keshe Foundation very soon. Keeping this picture, when this exhibition was set up, the same people that are scaring you with and nano and graphene called the owners and the directors of this exhibition center, frightening them. These machines are going to do this and that and a lot of what I call rubbish. And they told him, he's a nuclear physicist, he knows what he's doing. You're just talking nonsense. He advises Austrians know what sits the where it sits the truth and the knowledge. Any other question?
Yes, we can go back to Lisa from Australia, from the Plasma School Library, Australia, who asks, in the cup of the universe, we must use a mix of salts. Could Mr. Keshe please expand on these salts in a general way in relation to the human body? Lisa, Australia.
Yes, Lisa, Australia. Different products or different materials create different inertial field forces, like as we have on Earth or somewhere else. To get away from inertial levels of, let's say, iron or copper or whatever, in the liquid state form of the body of the man, the inertias for conversion of what we call reverse inertias by conversion of the matter to plasma or field is done by the presence of what we call salts. Or in a way, salts, you call them, in the terminology of plasma physics, in the direction of the life or dynamism or flexibility, we call it salt or inertial system. And different salts create different inertial strength that different materials can open up from matter state into what we call plasma state. And different variation of salt create different inertias. Like you have an inertia which creates copper, you have inertia which creates sugar, what you call, let's say, carbon. So instead of creating inertia of matter in a confined body of the man, the body has adapted itself, has created a mixture of material which they do the same thing as inertia in the surface of the earth. And in the earth condition, you have a magma which creates that dynamic, what we call reference point for interaction of the creation of different inertias. In our body, the blood does the same. So the salts are variation of the salts, and percentage of the salinity of the salt is what dictates what we call the position and composition of what changes from matter state into the plasma state, inertia level. As simple as that. On earth, we have inertias on the matter state. In the body of man, to create that inertia, we create salt to do it. And different inertia levels, salts, what we call salinity, and mixtures allows different manifestation from the same plasma. It's the same amino acid with different salinity or different field strength inertia. The same amino acid becomes a cell of a heart. The same amino acid in different salinity becomes a cell of a kidney. And that's all it is. Unless you want me to make it very complicated to tell you I'm very clever, that will not happen. You have to understand the principle. Salts are, in a way, inertia creation in the body of the man. And you have earth with what we call the magma and different plasmatic magnetic fields of the mass ratio of the matter. It creates inertia, which creates a magnetic field, which absorbs what we do, like in your boxes, from the energy to matter state. So it's the same with the salt. And that salinity, again, dictated by the matter which needs to be created, which is connected to the emotion. I need something to get rid of what I eat in a liquid state. So the body creates different salts, creates different system of filtering, creates a kidney that allows you to get rid of the extra water which you intake. So in fact, the cause or the creator of salts is partially embedded in the emotion of the man. This is why how we get cancers. Through emotion, we change the salinity, and a prostate from not being cancerous become cancerous because it produces different material. Now today you have 4 PhD degrees up to now, all of you. You understand more than professors in universities about nano, now about salinity, and the other topics.
Okay, well, we're working our way up now to the soul questions, I guess. We have a question from Salamia in the Q&A in the chat here. The question's actually from Ione from Romania. When our soul is lifted and we no longer eat or kill the animals, what will they do? Will carnivores elevate too, and how? Thanks.
The same. You're another animal. Why do you think you're the only one who gets elevated? The process is understanding stronger plasma feeds the weaker plasma. So if you reach that strength of the maturity, you'll feed to the other stuff. We have already started this process, but it's so hidden, but it's so beautifully getting there. A lot of you are spraying cup 1 or cup of CO2 or ZN, spraying it, or cup number 2 around the world every Sunday. And many people continuously, as I said before, produce gases and wash their pots and pans of which make gases into the sewage system. Now see how many knowledge seekers are making gases and how much energy than the matter state we are putting back into this planet. And in that process, gradually the soul of the planet and the man who lives in it will be elevated. And the animal drink from the same water as man. In London and major cities, big cities, many men cannot produce enough sperm to father a child. They have weak sperm. And as we said before, and scientifically proven, it comes from the conception pills which women take not to get pregnant. They leave the residual in water wastes, and the man eats it, and affects his from being a man to more or less no man. If you understand that cycle of work, how many of you in the cities and countries are washing your gas plates and cups into the drain system, and the others are drinking it? The fish, the rat, process another man. I'm getting you all very, very slowly. Many of you make gases and you spray. Put half of those gases in your drain system. You feed it from the top and the bottom. The soul of the fish and the ones who swim in the water elevates as much as those you spray for the man and the beast. And don't forget, a single atom in a Ganser state can fill up the solar system. How many gases you are throwing into the seas and waters, waterways, and how many of the gases you wash your dishes in London without knowing has gone through the water pipe, and maybe the next door neighbor who uses someone in London down the road used it. Receiving a new energy has changed his life and nobody notices. We've done some tests, many tests, and one of them is we had aggressive behavior between 2 or 3 different families in the house between husband and wife. Extremely aggressive. That they had no control, more or less. All we did, we placed ganses of a specific order in the houses. We saw the house changes. The family changed, the behavior changed. If we can pass through the air in the family by just putting a jar of specific gases, then you can see what you can do with the rest. We have changed the method. They couldn't stand talking to each other. Now they don't get enough of talking to each other. So gradually the bird passes you, the fly who sits on the gas you spray, the butterfly which passes on the drop you put on the petrol station and it's out by the light of it, all are getting elevated this point. As I said to somebody very recently, says, what are we going to do when we clean the air from CO2? I said, nothing. We put it in a drainage system and change the citizens too. And the other question. It's a very strange thing, just something very strange. I explained this before. Maybe you understand more. We call the CO2 global warming and danger. We take the same global warming, the same CO2 from the air, we convert it to a gas and become the basis of life for bringing comfort to life. The same material, nothing else. Now you can imagine how much we can change your society just by converting CO2 into gases and energies. One, according to the scientists, killing the planets, and by conversion is feeding the planet. And it'll bring changes. The first of these units, conversions, will be tested in Tehran in the next few days. And we will start seeing the change of weather in Tehran. Hopefully, thanks to the work of the Keshe Foundation. And thank you to the Chinese Keshe Foundation producing the systems. As long as you buy a system from Keshe Foundation and try to see it's only benefits me, you get a part of the benefits. If it's there to benefit the others, you get all of the benefits. If you buy a CO2 unit, I have no use for it, why should I buy it? Buy one and let it produce CO2 gases and feed into the water systems. Clean up is the most charitable things you can do to the whole human race. Converting the damages back into food and energies which the plants and animals can use. Not what it gives has to have a benefit because you benefit others. I explained this to the officials and they understood. And now we got tests. Any other question? Hello, Rick. I think I'm the only one left. Being the co-host, the system stays on. These are the problems we have. Yeah, Rick has dropped off. And if there are any questions, please write it in the chat. And I try to answer it till Rick comes back. Live stream still goes on. We are on it. It says, does a neutron inside the uranium atom has the same field strength as the neutron inside the hydrogen atom? How can we rank the strength of the magnetic fields in a periodic table? Is liquid oxygen a gas? Liquid oxygen is not a gas. It's a compression of the field in a matter state. All the neutrons have a spectrum of energies. All the neutrons are not exactly the same, but the bandwidth of the fields of a neutron is dictated by the central gravitational field forces of the universe. So in each universe, we have different field strength spectrum according to the position of that universe in the unicos. Because its field strength control to the minimum common denominator of a plasma. We call it neutron. And is primarily controlled by what we call the gravitational pull on the whole structure of the inner strength of the position of the universe in a galaxy of unicos. The way we have galaxies that make what we call a universe, we have clusters of universes which makes the galactical universes. In one of the papers I have mentioned this. This structure is the same. And the way each unicos creates its own central gravitational field gives it an identity. Like this universe, we call this an oxygen universe because it has a field of the oxygen, and the other one is copper, the strength. And this dictates how much of fields of what strength can be maintained in that universe. So our nitrogen or our hydrogen equivalent in another universe is not necessarily the same amount of fields in it. Are there any other questions? It seems that we have lost Rick, and we'll wait to see if he can rejoin or he just lost his power. Are there any other questions? There's a question from Mark Carlton Anderson. How does enrichment of uranium to a high level contribute to increased security and peace for the nations and inhabitants of the planet? The enrichment of the uranium, the way the Keshe Foundation has put forward, creates a condition of equality access to energy and supply, where every nation can produce its own, what we call energies, without a need to look for another to do. And the access to enrichment of uranium with the Iranian government is not for the purposes of defense, but is for purpose of the space technology development. I developed this technology in early 1980s, and in late who is this guy who's put, please use my contact for reply. We will disable you attending any more Telegram meetings, sir. Cam. Can you delete this and block him to come in? We explained before, anybody who does these things will be blocked. It's the last time you'll appear on the Keshe Foundation, Zoom or other channels. The production of uranium or plutonium or hydrogen in the new understanding of the field processes of the creation universe will create a condition that enriches all of us with whatever we need, and this creates a condition of peace. We don't enrich uranium to use it for weapons. We use it for distribution of the energy and fields. And it's a technology, as I said, I developed in late 1970s when I was in university, and 1980s. Because working with, as I was getting trained to become a nuclear reactor control designer, I could see easier way to create energies using the nuclear industry. And I developed this knowledge, which is a part of the now the Keshe Foundation technology for deep space travel. We don't look at uranium, we look at totally different aspects of what a large amount of fields can give us. The production of ganses is for our human consumption. Production of uranium is for different aspects. I think Rick is back.
Yes, hello.
Rick, can you delete this guy in the background, please, and block him to attend anymore?
Who is that?
You lost the chat. We'll send you a copy of it. Block this guy and don't allow him to come into any more Zoom meetings.
Okay.
Yeah. I send you a screenshot. It's the last guy in the list. I'll send you the screenshot. Do you have any document? Don't let him communicate.
Last person on the list that you sent me there.
Yeah, it's the Russian name.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate. I think they were trying to communicate last time. All right. Not sure how to block. I'll have to figure that out. Stanley might have to do that in the background. Okay, thank you.
Just any other question? You're back again.
Okay, I removed them and they shouldn't be able to come back in.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Yes, of course. We have several more questions. See, in the YouTube, we have a whole list here. Ram asks, thank you, Mr. Kesh. Can we use plasma technology to prevent and cure the destructive fires occurring every summer?
Yes.
We were thinking about that question in the plasma group, and it was mentioned about including ganses in the water that they normally put what they call fire retardant. They put fire retardant in when they spray the woods with fire retardant to prevent the flames and so on. And that fire retardant can get into the water supplies and into the food system and so on. So perhaps there is some combination of ganses or other plasma technology that could be used to replace that rather destructive technology.
We need the fires. We need it as part of the process of the life of this planet. If we stop all the fires, I mean the house fire, we can stop. But if you stop all the fires, the forest fires and the rest, the ecology of this planet will change. We interfere in a big way.
It's true that
the trees have to burn. The trees have to burn out during the cycle. They will fall. This is something which I always explain in so many ways. We look at the short space-time. No tree has lasted from the day when life started on this planet. And no animal has existed from day one. We have to respect the cycle of life. And if, let's say 100,000 trees burn in one fire, 10% of them will fall next year, another 10% will fall the year after. And the next 30, 40 years, the whole drop. And this is the problem we have. The cycle of life cannot be interfered with. If you worked or studied in biology courses or environmental courses, when you go to field, what we call excursions, if you pick a shell up, you have to put the shell back in. If you find an animal, you look at it, you put it back in, because you cannot interfere with the cycle of life just because you're there, you want to learn something. We can interfere for the fire not to get hold. But what's going to happen to this wood next year, next 10 years? It's going to fall. But a collective fires, the way we see it due to droughts or whatever, is part of the collective cycle of the life on this planet. We have to accept it. It has been there with what we call the forest fires or that kind of fire. That's how man learned how to cook. So the fire from the creation. We can stop fires. The technology of it is there, and we are talking to a number of organizations in that respect for development of these kind of systems. There is an Iranian team who works on this, and they use a sound, new system with the sound that they can close the fires and whatever, and are looking at into applying the Keshe Foundation technology to it, and we have the technology to do so. Most probably in the coming months we'll market it, but it's a restricted zone. We have the knowledge and the technology in our hand. It's not something we're going to work on it to come, but as I said, we kept huge number of technologies in the background until we can launch it collectively in one go, that we bring rapid change, and this is part of that change. And as I said, gradually we're building it up, and with the position we have in new structure with new Iranian government, His Excellency President Raisi, you will see technologies emerging out of Iran, which has been the dream of the man. If, as we see technologies used, and we see the right way, we release massive technologies out of Iran. And as I said, this is a gift to the new administration. If they use it, we work very closely to bring it all, we all can everybody. And the signs are good. And once the system settles down, they've been in power for more or less a week today, the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then we will see rapid release of new technologies from Iran. And fire extinguishing is one of them. It's developed partially. I saw the basis of it about 2 years ago in Dubai with the Iranian team, and it can be expanded very rapidly worldwide. Do not interfere. I mean, we would like to see not the houses burned or whatever, but this is a part of life. We intrude into the wild, and sometimes we get taken by it. But we cannot change. If we stop the fires, if we stop the hurricanes, if we stop the tornadoes, then what's going to stop? The whole thing is like putting a what I call a screw or a spanner in a work of a clock. it cannot work. Every wheel does its job, that clock works. We can't put, just because we have a spanner, we can't just throw it in and just stop one of the wheels. The rest of the wheels will stop too, will change. And it comes to the point, if you get the strongest wheel, the whole thing most probably will crash.
You can imagine the arguments if we figure out how we can stop the rotation of the earth. And some people will be saying, no, you can't stop it. And some will say, we have to stop it on our country so we get more light than you, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but we have to understand the process. We have to understand. Without the forest fires in Amazon or in Canada or in California, we do not have what is the other resources which they create.
Mm-hmm.
Or we want to stop. Disasters like Fukushima, we have to have technologies to stop. We have it now. It's again, it's available to be done. But even from landslides to earthquakes, it's a process of life. We cannot stop. Otherwise, the whole mechanism of this planet changes. The earthquake on Earth doesn't make any difference on the position of the, what do you call it, the sun or its path. It's just inherent.
The foresters in Canada are starting to recognize that idea, and that the indigenous people, the natives that were here before the white man came and settled and so on, they actually had techniques for burning the forest deliberately at certain times in order to make sure that they didn't have a larger fire later that would take out the entire forest, kind of thing. And they managed the forest that way by controlled burning. And now that technique is becoming more accepted. And they're saying now that this is the way of the future, is through these controlled burns, rather than this thing of trying to prevent, the burning of the resource. The government looks at it as a resource, and they're trying to prevent losing their resource. But by that prevention, it builds up the burnable material in the forest too much and makes it even more burnable and even more of a big fire than it would be if it was maintained by deliberate burning at certain times. So it's very interesting how the cycles come around, and finally the old techniques are being accepted.
We force our way because at the time looks good, and then we find out the forces of nature are bigger than man's greed and thoughts, and we submit to it. We have this situation now in Holland. In Holland, for decades and centuries, they made docks and they claimed land into adding to the mass land of the nation. But about 20 years ago, holding these docks was very, very hard, and maintaining them. And at a point about 20 years ago, the Dutch government agreed to reflood or give the land back to the sea, because man could not hold, because the nature forces were much more stronger. They would have taken it back in one way or another. We see that with the new landmass they're trying to create in Dubai. They made a palm, and maintaining it to stay as a palm the way it is very hard. They're spending a fortune maintaining it, because the oceans are claiming back. The Persian Gulf waters are claiming it back. And then they made, I think it's called the continent, or the countries near to it. And nobody's moving onto this. And if they leave it within months, there'll be no continent left. It's like, Europe, and then you have Germany or whatever in it, and you can buy these countries or whatever, I think, if I'm correct. is in a circle shape. And the last time I was in Dubai, none has been sold more or less except one to the Sheikh of Dubai, I think, if I was correct. And if you leave it, then the Gulf will claim its own sandbag. These are the forces of nature we cannot stop. We can divert in the small areas. There are trials in South China Sea with the Chinese. They are claiming huge amount of ocean by building what I call fake islands to extend their territory. And some of these islands need energy, power, and some of these islands need to survive because they've been made in the path of the annual hurricanes. And sooner or later they'll be coming back. There are technologies available that we can cover these things, but within limitation and acceptance of the reason for it. Any other question?
Jan has a question in the YouTube. It's a neutron question. Does a neutron inside an uranium atom have the same field strength as a neutron?
I read that one while you were away.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
While you went for your coffee break.
Wish I had time for that. Actually, I gave up coffee recently.
Do you want to go for a break and we come back?
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you very much.